Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayapatākā Sivasadi
The following is a class given by His Holiness Jayapatākā Swami Maharaj on September 5th, 1981.
When he appeared in the prison house of Kamsa, from Devaki, with his four-armed form and with his full hair and decorations, everything, he was already Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he was in the lap of Jasoda Mai, his mother in Vrindavana, and when the witch Putana put poison on her breast and tried to murder Krishna, and he sucked her breath, sucked her life air right out from her breast, then he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Krishna was lifting the whole Govardhan mountain with one finger, he was Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he was dancing with the gopis, he was Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he fought against the Kaliyapara and all these other demons in Mathura, he was Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he married 16,108 queens, and he expanded himself into 16,108 Krishnas, entering into each palace simultaneously, he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he spoke Bhagavad Gita, he was Supreme Personality of Godhead. He never had to become the Supreme God. He always was, from beginning all the way through, no end. But some people, they understand something, some they don't have that disciplic succession, that understanding. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has revealed the most esoteric understanding we cannot even begin to express. To what depth he revealed about Krishna. To actually understand all the things that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed, one has to first become liberated, then one can fully understand. So, even a liberated person cannot understand what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving. He is given what is far beyond liberation. Yet he has also presented the basic, simple formula and truth, which even the most fallen, conditioned, unfortunate person can also understand and be completely delivered. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is very compassionate. We always address Krishna's energy first. Sitaram, Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayana. Because energy is very compassionate. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken the mood of the energy. So he is very compassionate. He is known as Bhakta Vatsala Krishna. Chaitanya was also Bhakta Vatsala, very affectionate to his devotee. So Radharani, she appeared as the daughter of Vrishabhanu. This morning I asked that who was Vrishabhanu in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, and I offered a cookie reward if anyone could say, but everyone was stumped for a long time. Is Vrishabhanu? Here everyone's stumped too. So, Vrishabhanu, in a sense you can say, was Krishna's father-in-law. Since he was the father of Radharani, who was Krishna's queen of Vrindavana. So he also appeared in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, just as Radharani, just as all the devotees, they appear. The principal devotees also come and assist Krishna when he takes the role as a devotee. So Vrishabhanu came also and was one of the main branches of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotional tree. He came as a Pundarika Vidyanidhi. And one day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was crying that he was crying out, Vidyanidhi, 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 Vidyanidhi. Oh Vidyanidhi, Kotai Vidyanidhi, where is Vidyanidhi, where is Vidyanidhi? And everyone thought, well, he must be calling out on Krishna's name. But then someone realized that he's calling out some devotee's name. He said, Lord Chaitanya, which devotee's name are you calling? And he said, well, there's one very great devotee, Vidyanidhi. I am hankering for his association. Because I am not getting his association, therefore I am feeling separation. Even the Lord sometimes feels separation from devotees. Waiting. But the Lord is simultaneously Atmarama. Lord Chaitanya, being in the mood of devotee, very compassionate, tender heart. So Vidyanidhi, I think our Vyasaki went to see his birthplace. He was born in a far distant corner of Bengal. I mean, you can't get further away from Mayapur, in Bengal. So it said that he appeared there just to benedict the local people of that area. Chattagram. And nobody could recognize that he was a pure devotee except for very few expert people. Because he lived in a very posh manner. He appeared externally to be a little bit materialistic, but actually that was just the outward clothing and show. But he was always absorbed in meditation on Krishna. Always. Without any break. Didn't actually have any. Somehow or another he had some facilities, of material facilities, but he wasn't attached to those things whatsoever. That in a moment he forgot about everything and he was just always absorbed in Krishna. In a moment he would forget about everything. Even with it, it wasn't that he was absorbed, but somehow his associates always kept him provided in a very posh, nice situation, materially. So general people, they thought, well, he's not really a devotee, he's a Brahman. In this way he avoided a lot of moderation also from the people who come and pester devotees to get blessings and things. I was walking down the street in Silchar one day. Silchar used to be part of Sylhet, now it's Assam in India. And I'd given a lecture the night before in the big Hindu temple in Bengali, and so some lady spotted me. And right in the street she paid her full obeisances. So naturally I had to stop. I mean, she right in front of me, there was blocked the whole road. Then she grabbed my hand or something, I forget, or she just folded her hands in front of me and pleaded that she wanted a blessing. I wonder what type of blessing she wanted. So I said, what type of blessing did you want? And she said that her daughter had a bad stomach. She wanted the benediction that her daughter's stomach would be cured. She knew I was a great sadhu, so she wanted the benediction. Of course, we always hope that people would because one stomach is cured, then the next thing is the foot and the head and then the lung. This body always going to have trouble. So it's blessing from the Vaishnava is taken just to cure some temporary little aches in the body, and this way it becomes a botheration. But if they take the topmost benediction of pure bhakti, then all the material problems are finished in one clean sweep. But like that, most people, they're just interested in the immediate problem at hand. Then they forget about everything, about Krishna and the sadhus, till the next difficulty comes. In India, just before the final exams, you'll find that the Saraswati, the goddess of learning, her puja expands about 1,000 times. Other times you won't even see the puja of Saraswati. But that time, Saraswati is the topmost object of worship for all the students. They worship to get the special blessing to pass their exams. Just like when people are in distress, they go to the church, to the mosque, and then they pray. The Vaishnava, he's offering pure devotee, Vaishnavas. They offer something much more enduring. Every year, every exam, they're going again for puja. But the devotees, they're offering the eternal solution, eternal friend. So like that, people would bother. If anyone's known as a sadhu, then everyone bothers him. Please give blessings so my son is happy, so my daughter is healthy, this and that. Those things one automatically get. If you have Krishna's shelter, then where is the danger? Krishna rake mareke. If Krishna is protecting, who will hit? Who will strike? What danger can come? But they don't see that. They don't take the overall shelter. They just want a little bit gate pass from this difficulty. They don't realize that again difficulty will come. So the devotees, they sometimes adopt different methods and means to just avoid these bothersome people. So somehow, in this way, Pundarika Vidyanidhi, although he was the purest devotee, always absorbed and his eyes were practically filled just with tears. That when he would speak, it would just melt people's hearts. You couldn't imagine. So much that Chaitanya himself was eager to see him. Crying, chanting his name, and Chaitanya Maharaj was crying. That was how dear Pundarika was to him. Of course, Chaitanya Maharaj had an affection to him because practically from previous Leela, he was his father or father-in-law, which is the same thing in India practically. In some ways, father-in-law sometimes becomes more important in certain circumstances. In any case, that affection is there. Father-in-law is just like the father. So anyway, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was feeling great desire that Pundarika Vidyanidhi should come. How he feels, he said, we can't understand. We just have to more or less accept it. Lord Chaitanya, he feels and goes through various types of experiences which are beyond our ability to understand. So one day, Pundarika Vidyanidhi came to Navadip Dham. He had a little house there because he was a great scholar also. And all these scholars had to have one house in Navadip at that time. If they were anyone, they had to have something in Navadip. Because that was the seat of all these scholars, of all the great learned people. So Mukunda was also from Chattaga. Mukunda, Vasudev, Doctor. These were the two people that knew actually Pundarika Vidyanidhi's position, that he was a pure devotee. Others, they took it that, well, he was dressed very nicely, practically like a prince. It took you some materialist, maybe some. They didn't recognize he was a devotee. So no one really recognized that Pundarika had come. They remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was looking for a Pundarik, but they didn't know that this was the Pundarik or this was Pundarik. So they saw him, they didn't even inquire. He appeared to be a devotee, pretty much. And Mukunda one day, he told Gadadhar, there's a very great devotee has come. I'd like to take you to meet him. For just one reason. That I want, in return, that you will always remember me, that I am your servant. I'm taking you to meet devotee because if someone meets a devotee, naturally he'll be ever grateful for that, to meet a great devotee. What greater gift can be given? So I just want to give you something that you may always remember me, that I am your servant. If you can just give me that boon, that's all I want. Devotee doesn't want anything material in exchange. If another Vaishnava will accept some service, and with that service if he is spiritually pleased, that's enough for the Guru. So naturally, Gadadhar, how can he refuse the great opportunity he's going to be taken to see devotee? So, really always eager to meet such a very pure devotee as you described him. So they went to see Pundarika Vidyanidhi. In the house they went in. Mukunda bowed down, Gadadhar bowed down. Introduced, this is Gadadhar, he's been a lifelong brahmachari. There he saw Pundarik. He was expecting to see barefoot, very austere, maybe just sitting there in a kopin or something. But instead, he was sitting on big silken mattress. Big round cushion pillows around, all silk, high quality, first class taste. And he was wearing very expensive clothing. Someone was at that time fixing up his hair, which was long. Everyone wore long hair in those days. But it had highly scented oil. And appeared, he might even be taking pan. It wasn't exactly, it appeared that he might, there was anyway some pan over at, the beetle, over on the side of the room. And he had very expensive lamps, solid brass. On the side this was the cushion for sitting. On the side there was also a very nice brass bed with also very expensive cushions on it. So Gadadhar didn't know what to say. He just took it all in. And he was thinking, actually started to think in his mind. Because Mukunda was speaking in that, but a little doubt came in his mind that maybe it's not exactly pure devotee. Might just be materialistic devotee. Prakrita, they call that. Prakrita bhakta. He made the little, naturally being practically nice, he's a nice sticky brahmachari, completely pakka, celibate brahmachari right from his childhood. Very austere. You see this very opulent situation. It's natural for him to have a few doubts. In this way he was taking it all in, but in his mind a little bit of consideration, doubt started to creep in that who is Mukunda taking me to see anyway? The poor Mukunda was one of the topmost singers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's party. He could pick up on Gadadhar's mood. So then he knew how to bring out the best in Pundarika Vidyanidhi. So then he said, I'd just like to quote something from the Bhagavatam so that we can have discussed a little bit about Krishna. And so then he started to sing in Sanskrit and in verse the particular slokas in the Bhagavatam and the explanation. How, when Krishna was simply a child in the lap of Jasoda, Putana came. She's relative of Kasi, demon. Came with a poison, I believe. Came with a poison on her breast to kill Krishna. Because she offered her breast milk to Krishna, that Krishna, in spite of her being so envious, wanting to kill him, he looked to her like a mother. Maybe he took her life, but at the same time he gave her liberation. That Krishna was approached in such a hateful mood, yet because even it was covered by so much enviousness, because little bit of, at least the form as a mother was there. So Krishna accepted that good part and forgot about the bad part. And elevated her to the position of his own mother in the spiritual sky. So there's some very nice slokas describing this merciful nature of Krishna. And when Mukunda started singing these points, bringing out the exceptional quality of Krishna's mercy, that how, if anyone comes forward with a little bit of devotion, how he completely, he forgets all the bad points and gives the mercy to that devotee, just on taking consideration of the good part. So when Pundarika Vidyanidhi heard that, he couldn't control himself. He couldn't control. He just started to, first thing he just felt unconscious, and he started beating his head that I'm so sinful, I'm so Krishna has delivered all the sinful people, you see. But due to my offenses, that I've been left here, that I am being kept away from that. Why wasn't I present during all those pastimes? Of course he was, but he doesn't remember. Why wasn't I present in all those pastimes? And this way he was overcome. Immediately the different types of bhavas started to manifest. He tore his clothing, where the pillows flew here, the lamps fell over. He was beyond, and thrown into the ocean of separation. Just hearing about Krishna, he couldn't control it. It wasn't something that was just immediate. As soon as this glories of Krishna came, he lost all consciousness of the surroundings. Gadadhar, you can't even explain it was so obvious that he was completely unaware of it. As soon as he focused on Krishna, he became completely unaware of whatever was going around. To the extent that they had to practically put out the fire that was caused from the lamp falling over, and 10 people tried to hold him down, and he couldn't hold him down. He wanted to just run to see Krishna, and so finally, he somehow came to external. Gadadhar said, what an offense I did. He said that here's Mahabhagava. As soon as he heard about Krishna, he was absorbed in ecstasy. And I was thinking he's a materialistic person. So I committed a great offense. So he told Mukunda that I don't know, I have to admit that what a wonderful devotee this Pundarika Vidyanidhi is. Because by his cry, everyone was immediately, when they heard his voice, everyone's heart was shattered, was put into ecstasy, melted everyone. He said that it's obvious that he's a very great devotee, but I've committed such an offense that I was thinking that, seeing the surroundings, that maybe he was a little materialistic, how to get out of this offense. So the Guru always forgives the disciple when the disciple makes an offense. It's the nature of Guru, to always forgive the disciple. The spiritual master He doesn't take any offense by this. So he said, maybe I think I should take initiation from him. This way I'll be forgiven for my offense. Mukunda was pleased, and he was discussing with Pundarika. Then he mentioned that he saw you and was feeling a little bit from the external that you were materialistic. Therefore, for this offense, he's thinking the only way to get forgiven is he should accept initiation from you. He's a first-class Vaishnava, this Gadadhar. You should give him your shelter. Pundarika Vidyanidhi said, to get a disciple like that, one can do tapasya for 4 million years to not get a disciple like Gadadhar. Gadadhar was actually Radharani. But so he said, well, later on, you'll see. Then Gadadhar went back, and when Viswambar, when Lord Chaitanya heard that Pundarika had come, he became very ecstatic. He said, where is that Pundarika? Call him immediately. See, after a little while, when Pundarika came, he wanted to pay his obeisances to Lord Chaitanya, but he couldn't pay his obeisances. As soon as he saw Lord Chaitanya, he fell on time. Then Lord Chaitanya, he went and picked up Pundarika. Picking up Pundarika, again, he just called on Lord Chaitanya that Krishna is everyone's father. He's lifted up everyone. Only I, due to my being so offensive, I'm being left here. And I'm suffering without his association. And he started to just cry like that. And then everyone was crying to hear his devotional. And then being held by Lord Chaitanya, then again he fell unconscious. And Lord Chaitanya started to praise his qualities. What a great devotee he was. That he has come especially to assist me to deliver the bhakti to all the people. You take him with you and you have him chant some kirtan and expand the preaching. Then when Pundarika came conscious, then he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that this Gadadhar says he's committed some offense in his mind, so he wanted to take initiation from me because the spiritual master always forgives a disciple. Whatever you say, you are the Lord. Lord Chaitanya laughed and said, very good. It's very good if Gadadhar takes initiation from you. So immediately on the spot they had initiation ceremony and Gadadhar was initiated by Pundarika Vidyanidhi. Very hard to understand Krishna's pastimes. Comparatively, Ramachandra's pastimes are easier to understand, but even his pastimes are very difficult to understand. Compared to that, the pastimes of the other avatars like Vamana and the Singha, they're relatively easier. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes are the most difficult. Krishna, but he's in a mood of devotee. His other devotees, different, come from previous. We know there is devotees that are coming out, mood and particular role according to Prabhu's position. And so the situation is so complex, it's very difficult to understand. It's like Ramachandra, he's feeling separation from Sita. How can the Supreme Personality feel separation from a devotee? That is an esoteric quality that the Lord, He's transcendental everything, yet He can have some special emotion with His devotees. And then Krishna, His are even more intense. One cannot even begin to describe some of the different separations and things that Krishna feels sometimes. To understand what is their mentality, because He's absorbed in His own relation with them as the ashray or as the shelter. And if He wants to understand their mood, then He takes on their mood completely and takes the form as devotee, and that's called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you don't understand, then there's no use of trying to understand with intellect. You can go on chanting, serving, and then one day it will just come out like a little light bulb and you'll be able to understand. Because it's not something which is materially makes any sense. Or doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do with any material logic or anything else. But on another higher transcendental level, there is a type of logic to it. It does make sense. But if someone has the ability to understand that, that's his fortune. And if you don't have the ability to understand it, then someone can go on explaining it day after day. Doesn't mean it's going to become any clearer. Understand? What can I say? For me, it's very clear. But I can understand that for somebody it may not be very clear. But beyond that, I don't know how to explain it anymore. You think that when you suffer, that Krishna is suffering? So then? When we suffer, He's not suffering. He's Atmaramas. He's always transcendently situated. Does that mean He's not the Paramatma because He's not suffering when we suffer? He knows that we're suffering. But He's not suffering. He's not experiencing. We hit our toe and we think I'm the body and we're attached and we yell ouch. Does that mean that at the same time that He's suffering? Said that there's two birds on the tree. One is enjoying and suffering the fruits, and the other one is he's aloof. So where is the relation? So why would Krishna want to experience being a conditioned soul and suffering? Who would want to be that foolish to do that? So he doesn't become a conditioned soul. But Krishna in the spiritual world has His relationship with His intimate devotees. And it's described by the 6 Goswamis that in these relationships, Krishna has a particular mood which is His own mood. And the devotees, they have another mood. Krishna is accepting their service and they're giving their service. So you have to understand that there is particular moods, just like husband and wife, they have different moods. It's not just the same. What husband knows what the wife is thinking? There's always a certain degree of mystery between them as to what is the exact mental and psychological and so on of the other person. So you can take it that this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky, Krishna creates energy. His supremost energy is so complex because it's not different from Him. They're completely one and they become two. So just as Krishna is the supreme absolute personality God, He's the supreme absolute energy. So they go on exchanging their different mellows and their different pastimes. which is known as prema or pure love. So sometimes Krishna becomes so enthralled with these pastimes that he's only seeing it from the one side. He'd like to experience it from the other side. This is said to be the most secret, confidential understanding. So it's not expected that people very much understand it. If you can't understand the description, then I would recommend you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it describes this thing in detail. I don't know if I've made it any easier for you. One should be careful when asking questions, how you frame your question. It doesn't appear like a challenging question.
Particularly when you told last night about how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally decided to reveal who he actually was to and waiting for sign. I just wondered where the actual story was coming from. Is it Chaitanya Charitamrita or some source from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
It's briefly mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita and the full description in the Chaitanya Bhagavat.
And how we intend to publish this?
Prabhupada asked it to be translated, but the people that were translating it then later said they weren't qualified enough. So he said it's one of the books that should be translated. This Jaya was translated by Bhaktisiddhanta. Purport's written. I'm sure that within the next 5 or 10 years it will be translated. Between the Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrita? Well, the Chaitanya Bhagavat covers the early part of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes up to Jagannath Puri in great detail. That's why the Chaitanya Charitamrita skims over the early life and then goes from the point when he took sannyas after that in great detail. The difference is that the Chaitanya Charitamrita exposition on the philosophy and teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially on those dealing with a very esoteric, difficult subject matter, are so precise and perfect that it's the most transparent exposition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes and teachings, and historically it's perfect. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, some of it, according to some scholars, the explanations, like they'll skim over a very esoteric subject matter in just a short time, where actually it may go over the reader's head. So therefore, there were very extensive purports given by Bhaktisiddhanta. Well, you notice that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, very few purports were necessary, because he took the time of giving his own purports in the actual text by giving a lot of Sanskrit, just so that the readers would see the definite development of all the tongues. Otherwise, from the text of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he declares Vrindavan Das Thakur as the Vyasdeva of Chaitanya Lila. And Chaitanya Bhagavat is the first. Next to the Chaitanya Charitamrita is the most authorized book on Lord Chaitanya. It deals quite a bit with Nityananda's pastimes and other associates. And the whole, like Chandkazi stuff. All those pastimes are all mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat. You already had a question. In Bengali, it's a little bit thicker. I don't know. In English, what it would turn out to be. The Bengali Chaitanya Charitamrita is this thick. It's getting 17 volumes. So that Chaitanya Bhagavat is another happiness taken. He joined him in Navadvip. He was in Mathura and he came down to Navadvip and joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No, that was just when Lord Chaitanya was under 20. Very soon after Chaitanya started to preach bhakti, then Lord Nityananda came and joined him. Brother means they're called as brothers because of the, just like Lord Chaitanya called Pundarika Vidyanidhi his father. Because Krishna was his father. So Balaram, Lord Nityananda he called him brother. He was born in Akachakra village by Harayocha, and Padmavati was his mother. And Lord Chaitanya was born in Mayapur, there's 250 kilometers difference. Lord Nityananda appeared before Lord Chaitanya. But because he's Balaram, therefore he's brothers.